Fridays at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm excited to talk about the next set of topics, and it's who's going to start at key positions in San Francisco. And this is one that I probably got the most of the questions for, is who exactly is going to start at key positions for the 49ers, which players are in the mix, which players are going to start. And so I thought, you know what, let's do an episode. Let's talk about it, because I do think it's an interesting conversation. And I think there's a lot of things that play into who's ultimately going to start. And some of it is, are they going to start day one? Other questions are, hey, is it going to happen in the middle of the season? I'm going to try to address those. And it's always great when those questions come through. It's all questions by you, the listener. So I really appreciate you all going to the community page, leaving those questions, because I do think it brings up interesting talking points. And so that's what we're going to get into this one. And there's a lot of positions that are up for grabs that the 49ers got to decide, right? Who's going to start at left guard? Who's going to play safety in place of Malik Mustafa? Who's going to play nickel corner? Who's going to start along the defensive line at defensive tackle, defensive end? Who's going to start at linebacker? I think that there's just so many questions right now for the 49ers. And I didn't even get asked, but who's going to start at wide receiver? I think that there's question marks all along this 49ers offense and defense, as they have been adding players, but they're replacing incumbents that have moved on or players that are injured. And so question marks abound right now for the 49ers. And I'm excited to get into this conversation about who is going to start at these key positions. I think one of the most interesting thing is, here we are, we're just after the draft. 49ers have added a couple of players in post-draft free agency that don't count against their compensatory pick formula. And we're getting more answers about the depth chart of this football team, but we still got a long ways before we know who's going to start. But I think it's a good idea to discuss who probably will start and how the 49ers go about finding their starters. Because a lot of people are already saying, hey, this guy's going to start day one, this guy's going to start day one. And I think there's more of a process to it than that. I'm going to take it down the coach's perspective on how you look at depth chart, how you bring guys in, and when they become starters. I think it's important to remember that this is still a process. And yes, you drafted guys high. That does not mean they're given a position right away. And so I want to go through that as well in this episode. I'd like to thank everyone for coming by and checking out the show. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel. It means a lot. We're moving up that subscription board, and you're the big reason why. So I welcome you all to the 49ers Cutback crew. So thank you guys so much for the likes and the subscriptions. It means a lot. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. And if you are going to bet with BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball season is in full swing. We're into the home stretch for NBA and NHL playoffs. BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, and even live in-game betting while the games are being played. With a large selection of odds on everything from MLB, NHL, and UFC, BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports wagering info. In between games, head on over to the BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. BetOnline, the game starts here. So let's go to it. And, this is one of the interesting ones, is right off the bat, I'm going to go with my guy, Josh. And he says, who is going to start at right guard? And you might be asking, well, right guard? Like, what does that matter? Shouldn't it be about left guard? But Benjamin also, thank you so much for the question, Benjamin, said, in your opinion, can Connor Kobe compete with the incumbents for a starting guard spot this year, or is he simply a depth piece or project? And I think that these kind of go hand in hand, because the only way that Dominic Pooney is not starting at right guard is if the 49ers decide to move him to left guard. And I think that there is a path for that to happen. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'm saying there's a path. Number one, Spencer Burford has been a better right guard, in his past than he was a left guard. We saw limited snaps at left guard, but he's mainly been right guard. His rookie season was right guard. Last season, he was taking first team reps at right guard in training camp before he broke his hand, and that's what Dominic Pooney took over and never looked back. So if you wanted to make it more convenient for Spencer Burford or for Connor Kobe, who played right guard at Iowa, yeah, you could easily move Dominic Pooney to left guard. And when we're talking about continuity and having a continuity when it comes to working together, it could upset the continuity a little bit because Dominic Pooney is used to working alongside Colton McKivitz. But we've seen the 49ers do this before. Aaron Banks learned how to play right guard his rookie season, and then the next season they moved him to left guard where he played next to Trent Williams. Same sort of thing. He got continuity playing with Mike McGlinchey, but they moved him to the left side. Now, Pooney played his entire rookie season. Aaron Banks barely played at all his rookie season, so there is a difference there. But it's not that Dominic Pooney is not capable of playing left guard. He absolutely is. He played left tackle at Kansas. This would not be a difficult transition. In fact, moving to right guard was more of a difficult transition for Dominic Pooney than it would be moving to left guard because he's already done that so much. So that being said, I do think Dominic Pooney is going to play right guard. I think the competition is going to be on the left guard spot. And then the question is Connor Kobe going to be involved? Now we know that Colt McKivitz is right tackle, Dominic Pooney's right guard, Jake Brendel, whether we like it or not, Jake Brendel is going to be your starting center minus Matt Hennessy showing up and blowing the roof off of training camp, which I think everyone can hope for, that we can get an improvement from a former second-round pick in Matt Hennessy. We'll see. Trent Williams at left tackle. So the remaining key position that needs to be filled is left guard. Right now, I think the conversation has to start with Ben Bartch, but even then, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that it's Ben Bartch. They only paid him $1 million. They didn't pay him like he was going to be a starting guard. They paid him like he was going to be in competition to play guard. So you've got him in the mix. You've got Nick Sakel as well. And Nick Sakel was a 6th-round pick, and he comes out of the same draft as Spencer Burford. Now, I think they ultimately always wanted Nick Sakel to eventually be their starting center. That, of course, has not worked out. Now, it was a vast improvement last year in his ability to play center. I thought he had a really good training camp. He had a really good preseason. And there's one category he is abundantly better at than Jake Brendel, and that is anchoring. But he's also better than Ben Bartch and Spencer Burford as far as anchoring. He's up there with Dominic Pooney. That's something he does well. He doesn't give up ground. He can anchor down and stop a bull rush. So that is an advantage. He's also a really good pass blocker. Dominic Pooney, very good pass blocker. Nick Sakel, very good pass blocker. He graded out in PFF over a 70% last year pass blocking. His problem is he's not as proficient as Dominic Pooney run blocking. He's not as proficient run blocking as Ben Bartch or Jake Brendel or Spencer Burford. Spencer Burford, in fact, is the best run blocker of the remaining interior offensive linemen. So when you start breaking down who has advantages where to try to figure this thing out, it goes like this. Spencer Burford is your best run blocking interior offensive lineman, not named Dominic Pooney. That's the first category. So he has an advantage there. Nick Sakel is your best pass blocking interior offensive lineman. He has the advantage there. I think Matt Hennessy is your most veteran interior offensive lineman. He has the advantage there. Connor Kobe is your newest who played in the zone scheme. That's his advantage. And Ben Bartch's advantage is he's still young, got a lot of experience, started over 20 games in the NFL. So he's got experience in that category. And I think he's the most balanced of the offensive linemen that we're talking about. Burford needs to get better in pass protection. That's something he needs to get better at. Nick Sakel needs to get better in run blocking. Connor Kobe needs to get better at pass blocking. Matt Hennessy needs to get more consistent with his play. So each one of them has some sort of a negative when it comes to playing left guard. This is one of those conversations that's kind of fun because I think that every one of these guys are going to be in the mix. And I think a lot of people were kind of putting Spencer Burford out at tackle. There was a big movement last year from people that wanted to see Spencer Burford move out to tackle. And I think the 49ers, with the move of DJ Humphries, might have kind of pushed him back in, because you still have Austin Pleasance. You still have, potentially other guys that can play on the outside. So do you need him to get those reps outside? I think this allows him to compete at left guard. And we've heard this from Firster before. Spencer Burford is one of the most talented guys on the team, one of the most talented offensive linemen. When it comes to physical tools, he's got it. When it comes to actually executing on the field, we haven't seen it. Not since his rookie season. So I think this is going to be an interesting dynamic to see who figures it out. I think, if I had to guess, I think it'll end up being Ben Bartch. But I am not sold on this at all. The only thing I'm sold on is I don't think Connor Kobe starts. I think Connor Kobe is nothing more than a rotational piece if they can keep him on the roster. I do think he's going to make an impact. I think he's going to be pretty solid. I like the prospect. I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to compete to make this team. I think he is in the 49ers' long-term plans because of all the free agents, right? Ben Bartch, 1-year deal. Zakelj, last year of his deal. Spencer Burford, last year of his deal. Connor Kobe fits for somebody they need for the interior part of the offensive lineman into the future. So that's going to be one of the key elements to see what he ends up being. But I think that Bartch, Zakelj, and Burford, that's going to be one heck of a competition on the inside. And I think it's going to be fun. I don't know who makes the biggest improvement. If Zakelj improves as a run blocker, he's probably going to win that job because he's a pretty good pass blocker. If Burford shows consistency, he's going to win that job because he's the most talented. And if Bartch just goes back to doing what he did and the other two didn't improve, then he'll win it. I think that Bartch is the least talented of those three guys that we were talking about, Burford, Zakelj, and Bartch. He's the least talented, but he's more consistent. So that's going to be the thing. So right now I'm leaning towards Bartch, but I think the best situation for the 49ers is if Nick Zakelj or Spencer Burford beat him out, because I think they're more talented at the position. So that's what I think. Booney at right guard, and I think right now Ben Bartch at left guard, but I won't put it past either one of the other two guys. That's going to be one of the key training camp battles for sure. The next one comes from Josh as well. He says, does Alfred Collins and CJ West start, or does Elliott start and they begin the year as depth? So this is one of the key conversations, because I told you before that when it comes to rookies, the way coaches look at how these guys come in, and that's one of the things I wanted to lay out in this, is a lot of times people will automatically see somebody get drafted and say, okay, they're the starting opposite of so-and-so, right? Mikael Williams gets drafted 11. He's starting opposite of Nick Bosa. That's not how coaches do it. So what coaches do is, if you were a new player, they don't just pencil you in, right? Now, if you were a key free agent, right? If you were Charvarius Ward, for instance, when he came to San Francisco, you know already, because you have a proven track record of what he does in the league, that he's better than the other players on your team, then yes, he goes right to the starting lineup. But I want to give you kind of a case in point, is the 49ers in 2019, they made Nick Bosa work for it, right? He was not getting first-team reps right out of the gate. They gave it to Armstead. They gave it to D Ford. They made him earn it. And I think that's going to be the same thing with the 49ers defensive linemen. And I'm talking training camp. I'm not talking regular season right now. I just want to give kind of a basis for it. So I do believe that Alfred Collins and CJ West are going to start as rotational pieces in training camp. I think Jordan Elliott and Kevin Givens will get the initial reps as we move through training camp. Once we get to the preseason is where I fully expect for those two guys to absolutely pour it on and have a shot to start. I believe Alfred Collins will be a starting defensive lineman when the 49ers run out there for week 1 of the regular season. I think for sure he will be the one tech. I think he is the best one tech you have on the football team. I think the closest one tech to him is going to be Evan Anderson. Now, Jordan Elliott can do that, but we've seen Jordan Elliott struggle a little bit last year with holding up against double teams. That might be why the 49ers move him to the 3 tech. He's a bigger 3 tech, but it means he'll face less duo blocks. So Alfred Collins could play the 1 tech. Now where it gets interesting is who plays the 3 tech and starts. I think you see Jordan Elliott, and I think that he's been able to play that role before. And then you see CJ West. I don't think Kevin Givens is in the mix to start. The reason I say that is Kevin Givens definitely struggles when it comes to stopping the run, and he's not so effective when getting after the quarterback that he could beat out CJ West or Jordan Elliott. So Alfred Collins, we got done. Now we've got to talk about the 3 tech. I think when it comes to CJ West, he is a very versatile player. He has the ability to play both the 1 tech and the 3 tech. His penetration ability shows that he can wreak havoc in the backfield. He's one of those guys that gets elite pressures on quarterbacks. That's something that you absolutely love. But there is an art to playing 3 tech with Chris Kasarik. There's an art to being able to consistently get in the backfield and cause problems in the backfield. So I think early on, this is just my belief right now, and my mind can definitely be changed through training camp in the preseason. I think Jordan Elliott is going to start next to Alfred Collins when we get into the regular season week 1. I think Alfred Collins will play the 1 tech. I think Jordan Elliott will play the 3 tech, and the 49ers will roll with those 2 guys. I think there's a lot of faith in Jordan Elliott. I think there's a belief that he can play better than he played last year, but I think that he's a penetrator that they like. So I think he becomes the 3 tech, and I think CJ West is a part of a rotation with Kevin Givens, with Evan Anderson. I do believe CJ West and Alfred Collins, to a lesser degree, can play the 3 tech. I think they're versatile. And Alfred Collins is lined up everywhere. I don't want to say he can't. I'm saying effectively in the 49er system. They're both athletic enough to be penetrators. So there is a chance that both these guys could just blow the roof off and be able to play the position. But I think that you're going to have some movement there. And I think Kevin Givens could be more of a Bravo rotational piece. But there's also a chance that the 49ers might ultimately, and this could be interesting, a part of this dynamic, is go Alfred Collins, Jordan Elliott as your original starting lineup, and then rotate Evan Anderson with CJ West. Anderson playing the 1 tech, CJ West playing the 3 tech. And that would be another good run-stopping group as far as your Bravo group. Then when you get to obvious pass downs, you go with Kevin Givens as your designated pass rusher. And I know he has not proven to be a really great pass rusher in the NFL, but he has been a guy that's been able to get 2.5, 3 sacks per season. That could help you. I think the 49ers plan right now is to go with extra defensive ends on pass downs, but I think that's an avenue for Kevin Givens to be able to consistently contribute on this team. So just kind of talking some of the defensive line out, I think that West is eventually going to start. Don't get me wrong. I just think that Jordan Elliott, because of the experience playing Kasarik's system for a full year and his ability to penetrate, I think he's going to get it early on. But I would hope that at some point CJ West takes over as a starter. If that happens and you get Alfred Collins and CJ West as your 2 interior defensive linemen, number one, your run stopping ability is fantastic, but that also means they're generating enough pass rush that these 2 guys are elevating their game. Now, West is a better pass rusher right now than Alfred Collins, but both these guys are extremely gifted, and when they get with Chris Kasarik in this style of defense, I look for them to be able to generate some real opportunities. So I like the interior part of the defensive line now that they've added those guys. So when you go to training, if you go to training camp right away, and David Campbell did ask me if I was going to training camp, I need to comment back. I am going to go to training camp. I like to go every year. I don't go for as many days as I used to go because of my schedule, but I still like to get out there and see it for myself, lay eyes on these guys. I think it's really important. So if you guys are out there, always say hi. But that's where we're going to find out who CJ West is. But initially, Kevin Givens and Jordan Elliott will get the reps. Then at some point, you're going to see Kevin Givens off, and it will be Alfred Collins and Jordan Elliott. And then I think once you get to the regular season, it will be Alfred Collins and Jordan Elliott to start, and CJ West will be pushing to see if he can get a starter. That was a really good question from Josh, but he wasn't done. We had a couple other ones. One from Josh that says, does Siegel start with Malik hurt, or do they rely on Odom to start this year? And then Joel, what's up, Joel? How's it going? Also answered, who do you think our starting secondary will be with Malik's injury? So both of them kind of going around that safety position and trying to figure out who's going to start. And I think this is one of the most complicated positions to figure out for the 49ers when you look at the safety room. Because you came into this year before the knowledge of Malik Mustafa's injury thinking, hey, we have one really good safety in Malik Mustafa. Talanoa Hufanga left in free agency. He's gone. So it was about, yeah, we've got Malik, and then can Robert Saleh turn Jair Brown into a steady safety prospect? And we don't know the answer to that for sure. So we have question marks about Malik's spot now, and I think Jair. Now, I do believe that Jair Brown is going to start at safety for the San Francisco 49ers. I think that we saw enough good things when he played for Steve Wilkes, even though it was inconsistent, to say, yeah, he's still got enough talent. And I think that Robert Saleh's defense will probably help him elevate his game. But we've got to talk about the guys that they added. So Josh brought up George Odom. And the reason you bring up George Odom is he played in this system before. So he's probably going to have an opportunity to get a lot of reps. And the 49ers have elected to keep him so far. They paid him a $1 million bonus that he was owed in April. So you've got an idea that George Odom's competing for a roster spot. But they also brought on some free agents as well. Richie Grant comes over from Atlanta, a former second-round pick who hasn't really materialized into the safety that the Atlanta Falcons thought he could be. He didn't get a lot of opportunities. When he did, the play was up and down. I think that he would fit a lot better with the 49ers defense. I think that this is a guy that they've been watching for a while. I think it's somebody that Robert Saleh has been watching for a while. So they brought him in. Then they brought in Jason Pinnock. And I like the Jason Pinnock signing because he was drafted by Robert Saleh in the 5th round, but also he was a nickel corner in college. And now he could play safety. And I like the versatility. If you look at what they did with Marcus Siegel, he's another versatile guy. He can play free safety. He can play strong safety. He can play in the nickel. He can play, dime. There's a lot of versatility there. I think that you look at the options and you have Jason Pinnock, Richie Grant, Marcus Siegel, George Odom, and Jalen Mahoney, the undrafted free agent from last year. You have lots of potential options at safety. I think with the way that Jair Brown plays, you're looking for a more free safety type. You're looking for that guy that can cover the deep third, that can play in coverage a lot. Right now, you haven't really had that in the past, right? Since Jimmy Ward, you haven't really had a free safety per se. So they draft Siegel because he's got the 4.3 speed. I think that is a dynamic feature the 49ers have. I think the versatility as well is really huge for the secondary. They need that versatility to line up anywhere. But I would say that right now, because of the way I feel about rookies in translation to not just the NFL game, but to the 49ers defensive style, I think it's going to be tough for Siegel to start week 1. I am going to lean, and I like George Odom, but I am going to lean towards Jason Pinnock or Richie Grant. And I think I'm going to lean towards Pinnock because I think he is good enough in coverage and very versatile that he can play in the box or play deep. And I think he'd be a nice complement to Jair Brown. So I think right now it's going to be one of the 2 new guys that came in, Pinnock or Grant. And I think Siegel is going to learn, and at some point he's going to eventually take over the safety role. But I don't know if that's going to be 2025. I think there's a chance one of the veterans do it until Malik Mustafa comes back. So my guess, if it was today, just from the type of player, would be Jason Pinnock. But I'm leaving it open for this to be a competition. The same way left guard is a competition, I think the safety position is going to be up for grabs. The guy that's making the most plays, that's flying around, getting some stuff done, I think is going to have the best opportunity to get in there. So I don't think George Odom's out of it, but I definitely think he's going to be a little bit on the back burner. So we'll see. I think he'll take some of the early reps as you start seeing Pinnock and Richie Grant learning, but I think he's going to slowly slip. And I think he'll be a part of, that second or third group, probably the third group. I'm guessing the first group will be Jair Brown and Jason Pinnock. The second group will probably be Richie Grant and Marquise Siegel, and then probably George Odom and Jalen Mahoney. So that's going to be tough, and we'll see how he does. But I thought that was a good question as well. We've got injuries in the secondary, and those guys are going to have to, figure it out. And I think there's just going to be some really good competition in the secondary when it comes to that position. So we talked about guard, we talked about safety, and I think that's what's great about the questions. They keep coming in, is they also touch on other positions as well. And one of those positions is cornerback. And I think that's something that the 49ers are going to have to evaluate because, people want to know, is Upton Stout going to start day one? And I just don't know if he's going to be able to. I like Upton Stout a lot. I think that he is a very good player when it comes to tight coverage. I love the fluidity in his hips. I love the way he's able to turn, coming out of his back pedal. He's got the ability to run with wide receivers. He changes direction really well. He drives on the football well. Those are all really great things when you're going to play nickel. But he also comes up, right? He stuffs you in the run. He comes after the quarterback. Those are things that he adds as well. So we know who the two outside corners are going to be on base downs. But now you only play your base defense 25, 30% of the time. With most teams running 11 personnel, you're mainly a nickel package. So we know Lenore and Renardo Green are going to be on the outside in your base downs. That's, let's say, 25% of the time. The other 75% of the time, you're either in nickel or a dime. The 49ers are working towards, with their drafting, I think it's really evident, getting De'Amara Lenore to stay outside the same way Charvarius Ward did. You are outside, you are covering the best wide receiver. And Renardo Green, you're playing on the outside, and they're looking to get a guy to play inside. That is why they drafted Upton Stout. Upton Stout is going to be in competition at nickel corner first off with De'Amara Lenore. And Lenore, of course, will beat him out because Lenore's so good. But the question is not Upton Stout versus De'Amara Lenore directly, but Upton Stout versus Trey Brown on the outside. So Trey Brown is going to be the third corner, and he's going to come in on obvious nickel situations right now. When he comes in on the outside, if he plays better on the outside than Upton Stout plays on the inside, then the 49ers will move Demo inside and allow Trey Brown to play outside with Renardo Green. So it's an indirect competition between the two. So Upton Stout's best way to start is just tear it up. If there's one thing I know about this guy, it's not going to be for a lack of effort, a lack of trying, a lack of preparation. It's only going to be how quickly can he transform his game to fit within the 49ers defense. If he can figure it out day one and he can get this ball rolling and he can play with intensity, we've seen the 49ers draft guys to play nickel and start them. If you look at what they did when they drafted Sam Womack, they moved him to nickel and he started week 1 and 2 of the season at nickel corner. Now, eventually he struggled when it came to run fits. They had to move him out, put De'Amara Lenore in. Lenore never looked back. But I think that there's an opportunity for Stout. I think he's going to get a real shot. I think they're going to start right with their normal rotation where they're going to go Demo, Renardo Green, and then Trey Brown on the outside. But I think they're going to give in training camp plenty of reps to Upton Stout. And if Stout plays the way he's capable of playing, I think the 49ers will ultimately go with Upton Stout on the inside and De'Amara Lenore on the outside. I think there's a real shot. And I know that's tough to say, but I think there's a real chance that could happen. I think if I was a betting man, I would go with Trey Brown's playing on the outside, with Lenore playing on the inside, and at some point Upton Stout takes over. But I can't count out Upton Stout because I think there's a real chance for him to be able to do that. Some other guys that are in the mix to potentially get a shot at that, I think Trey Tomlinson might end up having a shot to play outside instead of Trey Brown. He was a former second-round pick, a guy that played for the Rams that they're pretty high on, but TCU teammate of D. Winters, and I know John Lynch watched a lot of them when he was in college. I think he's got an outside chance to push Trey Brown to play out on the edge as outside corner. That could also throw a wrench into chances of Trey Brown playing outside, and maybe Trey Tomlinson takes that role. Another guy that's not really big or strong, not overwhelming, but pretty good in coverage. And so I think that he's got a shot to play in the mix. So I'm kind of interested in that. So who's going to start at key positions? I think this was a fun conversation. I appreciate your questions, and I hope I gave you guys some answers. Of course, I can't give you like definites because I just don't know. It's going to be figured out on the field, but we're going to figure this out along the way. I think right now what we do know is Ben Barch is probably the most likely to start at left guard. I think that one's one of the most contested, but I think that's true. I think when you look at the secondary, I think right now my bet would be that Jason Pennick or Richie Grant are going to start next to Jair Brown week 1 until Malik Mustafa comes back, and I think Siegel will be a rotational piece. I think that is known. I think when you look at the cornerback position, I think it's likely that it's going to end up being Trey Brown on the outside with Renardo Green and Deommodore Lenore moving inside on nickel situations, at least early on in the season until Stout is ready. But that's another one. I don't count Stout out. And then I do think it's going to be Jordan Elliott and Alfred Collins that start day 1 at defensive tackles in the first regular season game, with CJ West, Evan Anderson, and Kevin Givens being a part of a rotation. We'll see how that plays out. We always hope that CJ West could take that job. That's the best situation, right? You want to be the best as you possibly can be. So great questions from you. I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network. Please give it a 5-star rating. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.